See, and it's one of those things where there were definitely some characters I was really happy to explore individually, and I was happy to, I was, as much as I like Buster, I was really happy we only got one episode because 2 of them might have been too much for him.
Yeah.
But I will say, even with the warnings from the group that, that there is very, 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 very little group scenes, it was still jarring. Like, I knew in my head that there were only going to be 2 of them. And, not having those interactions, I think, is what ended up hurting. Sounds melodramatic, but I think it's true. I feel like so much of what made Arrested great was the, sometimes you just get that random pairing. You'd get people who would just share a scene and would click for 35 seconds and it would work great. You didn't really get a lot of that here. You didn't get a lot of the whole family together. You didn't get a lot of 4 or 5 of them together. Part of that was money, part of that was part of that was their schedules. But it was very much, it was a lot of it made me a little bit sad. Like, I was talking about it with I can't even remember who at this point. I've talked a lot about Arrested Development the past couple days, guys.
Obviously.
But I felt like a lot of it was in some ways like Sex and the City, the movie, in the sense that, I felt like both Arrested Development and Sex and the City.
I think that's a little harsh.
No, but let me explain. Let me explain.
Fine.
They both ended really well their series because Arrested had basically that feeling that the end was coming. They had their season slashed, etc. Sex and the City had the chance to plan it out, and they both had really good endings. And then they, fans wanted the Arrested Development continuation more than Sex and the City. I would argue because that came around so fast. But Sex and the City, that first movie, I actually don't think it was a bad movie. I think it was bloated in parts, absolutely, and I think part of Arrested was bloated in parts.
Oh.
But I think in many ways they had the characters do things that just were sad and depressing to end up in almost virtually the same spot that they were when the series ended. And I feel like a lot of that was the same with the rest. Like, we got some really sad character developments, and we had 2 marriages break up in the 7 years.
Right.
Which is
but
sad.
I think that's rings true for the characters of Arrested. Like I look at those characters and I say, like, yeah, I never expected you all to be together.
It wasn't a matter of happily ever after. It was just, my thing was, it kind of bothered me with George Sr. and Lucille only because...
Well, they should have broken up years ago.
Right, and that was my thing. It's like, they never broke up before. Why do you need them to break up now? So I was just like, there were a lot of things where I feel like it was kind of like an epilogue that wasn't entirely needed, because I actually do like we got this, but it felt very much like a lot of people ended up in the same place where we left them 7 years ago. So it was just a lot of, I don't know, it felt like there wasn't enough growth or regression to justify that in some ways. And then obviously they can't grow to be mature or great people.
No,
then
that's the
not
thing.
A show.
Like usually I'm the one that's saying, like, if the characters aren't growing, I don't want to watch. But like with these specific types of personalities, I felt like it rang true. The fact that like they took this tiny little step forward and then no.
And I feel like I might have been okay with that more if maybe had grown more significantly, or at all. Because maybe George Michael or Michael.
George Michael, I think,
kind of
grew as much as George Michael because he was so stunted emotionally anyway. Can't grow in that time. I agree about maybe. Like, I liked her story about how, like, and I think a lot of what I liked about it, was more the subtext. But yeah, I would have liked to see at least one of them break out and be like, I don't have to be like you people.
If I think
I can fight my
I feel like if one
genetics.
of them, and I feel like if one of them had managed to do that,
and
it might have felt like.
I feel like George Michael is on his way. Like, he's not there yet, but he's certainly on his way. He has something that is successful, whether it's real or not. He has a girlfriend. He stood up to his father. Like, we started with him in the beginning of this 15 episodes with him unable to be like, Dad, I want you to move out of my dorm room. I'm not talking about you. To realize, not putting family first, to realizing what was happening and not just, shying away and letting everybody like trample all over him. So, it's as much growth as this family, I think, is going to get.
Right. Like, I would not have been happy if suddenly, like everyone else was super mature and whatever. It would not have been what I needed, but I felt like at least one of them had to have made some progress. Like, one of them had to have not been.
Yeah.
That was my feeling.